The Maddie exit is one of two things. It is either one of the toughest movements to do in Olympic female ice skating, or it is what happened in the sauna when Matt was in Tennessee. It's a triple sow cow with a Maddie exit. Hardest thing in Olympic ice skating for the chicks.
Well, welcome everyone to another episode of the Kronos Group podcast with yours truly. This week, actually, Jerry, I know we just started talking right before the podcast, but I think the sauna is something that I really didn't really understand or know the benefits from before, I would say a few years ago. And for you, being able to like speak to other business owners, other people other men of all ages, it could be young or old. What was that benefit of the sauna to you when you made that change prior to when you were never using a sauna or even knew about contrast therapy or anything of that?
Well, when I started in 2022 getting in shape and losing all that weight, part of that in May of that year, after I'd lost about 60 pounds, I started hitting the sauna, and Steve will remember because I'd go in for 10 minutes and I'd be bitching about, man, I couldn't even make it 10 minutes, 175, 180 degree sauna. And it was just brutal. But as I started to get healthier, I was researching more and more and more, learning more and more and more about my health. And as somebody with a very, very significant heart issue, anything I can do to increase or improve that heart health was a big part of my overall health, obviously. And so the numbers are crazy about how good the sauna is for you. And that does not even count the gym that I go to. It's a nice gym, a Lifetime Fitness, the relationships that you have, the people that you meet, the friends that you make, because you're sitting in there and everyone's dying for 20, 15, 20, 25 minutes. Some of the best conversations, some of the best interactions have happened in the sauna. In fact, I had one of my buddies that I've known for years in there hit me up the other day, wants to talk to me about maybe helping him do something with his business as he's looking to change. Because he's like, aren't you in? And I said, yep. And he's like, you and I need to talk. I mean, it just from a business perspective, from making friends, from politics to, everything in between. Health is always a big part of it. You never know who you're going to find. Doctors in there, and there'll be surgeons in there, and there'll be chiropractors in there. I mean, just across the board, nutritionists. You just meet all kinds, super athletes and dudes just getting started and obese people. So it's fantastic, but they've done large studies, and this is mostly up in the Finnish, up in Finland and in that part of the world where saunas are really everywhere. And them bastards are crazy. We're talking 220 degrees. And they've been studying it forever. And so they followed 2,300 people for 20 years and found that frequent sauna, that's 4 to 7 times a week, I go every single day, reduced the risk of a fatal cardiovascular disease, stroke, sudden cardiac death by 40 to 60% compared to even using it once a week. So it actually helps to do it 1 time a week. And if 1 time is good, 2 times are better. But 4 times is the minimum. 20 degrees. It's got to be a dry sauna. 170 or hotter, really 172 or hotter is kind of the magic number. And what it does is it mimics this mild cardio, right? Where your heartbeat comes up. At my top, I'll be in 120, maybe 122, which is the bottom of stage 3, aerobic exercise, which is about when I'm doing my 4 miles, 2 minute on, 2 minute off, 2 minute on, 2 minute off. When I end that, I'm at about 122. So I'm reaching that level in the sauna, and I go in 25-minute minimum, sometimes 30. It all depends on if I have the time. The difference between the amount of sweat that comes out of me post-sauna at 20 minutes and 25 minutes and 30 minutes is exponential. So by that, I mean the longer I can stay in, this is how I describe this. I am not a doctor, but this will make sense. It's like the longer I stay in, the deeper the heat gets into my body, because if I go 20 minutes, I will be cooled down by the time I've maybe taken a shower, sat for a few minutes, take a cold shower, always a cold shower, take a cold shower, maybe go dip myself in the pool this time of year, outside in the cold pool, come out, and I'm done sweating. 25 minutes in that, and the sweat is pouring off of me well past 10, 15, 20 minutes. 30 minutes in the sauna, if I don't go sit in a cold plunge, or if I don't take a cold shower and stand underneath it for 10 or 15 minutes and then get dressed slowly, and when I get dressed, I'm still sweating, 25 minutes later. So it seems to be all of the work just from my experience is between that 20-minute to 30-minute, because you're supposed to go in until it gets really difficult. And one person's really difficult is another person's I'm about to die, as Matt experienced, where Matt felt like he was going to die. I felt like I was going to die last night when I was in there. So I know that all too well. I was going to go 30 minutes. I made it 26 and a half. I set my alarm for 25, but I was like, man, go another 5. And I thought I was going to die. So the reality is you're not going to die. The reality is that's when all the good work is done, and you're supposed to get yourself to the point where you're really starting to stress, and it does a world of good. So we know this from these different cohorts, these different studies on humans that show over the course of 20 years, this huge benefit. Of course, up there in the Nordic part of the world, they've been going in saunas, for generations at this point, 10, 20s, 30s, 40 generations. So for us, it's all fairly new, but I'm a huge proponent of it. And here's what I'll say. The last thing is I always do it after I've done everything. So a typical day for me is like I said, going in and working out, which is about 45 minutes of heavy lifting. And then I'll go do my 4 miles, which is 2 minutes on, 2 minutes off. Today I walked with my son with a backpack on, but typically that's my new thing. 2 minutes, doing about 13-minute miles, somewhere in there. And then I go directly to the sauna. I feel better walking out of the sauna than I felt walking into the gym after I've done all of that work. So forget about what good it is for my heart. There is something about heating my body up that way in a sauna and then cooling it back down that makes me feel better after, as Matt will attest, my workouts aren't a joke. After beating my body up, that really is just revolutionary for me. So I rarely do I work out where I don't include a sauna.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great piece of advice, because there's so many guys that will just do a workout, and when they see a sauna, they're like, there's no joy in that. There's no like success found in sauna. And that's where I completely disagree, that there is a lot of benefits to it. It's just a matter of, like you said, what is that threshold? And it could be different for everyone. Like for you, it's 20 minutes. For someone else, it could be 10 minutes. That doesn't mean like when you're starting out doing this that you're going to go 20 minutes. Like, good luck. But starting out at like even 10 minutes will significantly have a better health impact on your life than just not doing it at all.
Yeah, and here's what I'll say to that too, because you make a great point, and this is overall to anybody listening. There's fat guys that come in particular fat old guys that come in, and they come in and they sit in the sauna for 10 or 15 minutes, and then they walk out like they're about to die, and then they come back in, and they've been doing that for the 5 years I've been going to this gym. And that in their heads is a workout. So what I say to everybody is, just like me, when I started that 3.5 years ago, that 10 minutes sucked. It got hard real quick, but I read the research. And like anything, you've got to push past that pain threshold. So where the first few days I did 10 minutes, by the third or fourth day, I did 15, and 15 sucked it royal. I mean, royal. So then I had to work up to being able to do that 15 without feeling like I was going to die. But you got to be honest with yourself. So you have to listen to your body. Honestly, though, understanding that I'm in the sauna for therapy. That means I got to push. That means I got to be aggressive. I'm not going to go sit back there and fall asleep. I'm there for a reason. And so then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? 15 ain't enough. I got to go 20. Now, maybe you don't make 20, but 15, you got to be honest and say 15 got here quick. Now it's 20, because it will go really quick. And pretty soon you're doing 25, 30 minutes. I don't know. It was within a month, maybe a month and a half. It really ramped up quick, as long as you're going consistently.
But I tell you what, that 25 gets long when it's one of those days where you're looking around at just wooden walls and there's nobody in there.
It's the worst.
That is hard. You mentioned falling asleep, and I don't see how anybody could. When you first get in there, it feels good. You feel it soaking in your skin. But later on, I don't see how anybody could just doze off in there. I mean, it just gets so uncomfortable. But yeah, that's helped me when I've gone in. We go to the Y, and I've gotten really good at just bringing up random conversations just to create it. And there's not many people that'll do it, but you have to. But then everybody appreciates how quick their time goes as well. Yep. But to your point, you're experienced enough. You know, it's critical. Let's talk about something. let's talk about something, anything.
Yeah, anything to make the time go by. But I want to make it clear on this. I'm in there like everything else to improve my health. So everything to me is a competition with myself. So this idea that I love the sauna, I love it's my favorite part of my workout for sure. So it's not as difficult as the other parts unless you get to that last 5, 6, 7 minutes, like Matt experienced. Matt, what would you rather do? The crushers to your throat or the last 5 minutes in your sauna?
Oh yeah. No, it would definitely be the crushers to the throat at that point. So.
Right. Yeah.
That's a whole body. That's even hurting your brain after a while. You're getting so hot. That's the biggest struggle is when the brain starts to heat up, and then every fiber of your being is feeling it.
And time stops, dude. It will 30 seconds. Well, how can it? It's got to have been 3 minutes, and it was 30 seconds. Yeah, it's the worst, but it's also the best because when you get out, you're like, all right, yep, another one crushed. And then again, the sweat. And here is a byproduct. If you're going to do it regularly, and everyone should, regardless of your age, particularly if you're older, if you're going to do it regularly, you have to drink your water because you're going to sweat an inordinate amount. And so between your workout and your mileage and the sauna, you've got to be making sure that you drink your water, 64 ounces. This is my second one today. I just refilled it before the podcast started. And so if you're not drinking your water, you're just going to do yourself a disservice because you're going to dehydrate, which is about the worst thing you can do. So it makes me drink my water is my point, because if I don't, I personally will go into AFib. My heart will act up because that muscle needs to have all of the water I'm comfortable giving it. And so it makes you be disciplined in other areas also. Otherwise, you're just working against yourself.
And what about your electrolytes? Since you are sweating so much out, what's your take on that as far as adding electrolytes, not just water?
So for years, I just to be honest, I did all of that I did. I just started putting 5 grams of hydrate in, I don't know, 6 months ago or so. Whenever it was, Steve, I told you about it. Seems like it was last year, late last year maybe. Before that, I had never used any kind of electrolyte before for the most part, maybe on and off a little bit, but I didn't. I just put sugar-free Kool-Aid in my water and I drank it, and I drank a gallon religiously and did all of that exercise religiously. And I never really had any issues. I now put hydrate in it. Number one, I like the flavor of the hydrate and it can't hurt, but I don't pull my punches with salt or any of that either. Right. I salt everything, and salt is not my enemy, and I don't treat it like my enemy. So I haven't really had any issues with, with my muscles going tight in the middle of the night, Charlie horses or anything like that. But I like the hydrate, and I think it probably adds to it. But if I'm being fair, I only drank water for years for the most part and didn't have any issues. Of course,
and it might be. I was going to say, it might be.
Think about it. So did all of man for the first million years or however long. So.
Yeah, but being on the carnivore too, you salted your meat, so you're probably getting a higher degree of salt, where some people are just so salt fearful. Salt's the enemy of everything, even though it's necessary for everything 100%. In our body. The electricity, if we didn't have the salt, our brain, our heart, it all operates. The salt is what conducts the electricity through the body, among other things. But that might be why you were able to do it, because of the diet you had. If you're on the standard American diet that everybody's trying to cut all the salt out, you would have probably noticed that.
Yeah, and I know from all of my interactions with the cardiologists and all that, telling me for years that salt is the enemy. I don't believe that's the case. I think that is old science that's been disproven. And I think I've probably proven that myself in my own life. So yes, I eat salt, to your point, as a carnivore, and I eat a lot of salt. I mean, I salt everything. I just put salt on everything. So I don't know. But I like the hydrate, and I don't think that it hurts me, and maybe it helps me. It might. I'll tell you what, though. I did this really interesting exercise. I videotaped it, Matt. I don't know how good it came through. I'll send it over. But I was up. My son graduated from the military MP school, so we were up in Missouri this week, and we were staying at a Holiday Inn Express. I think I sent you a picture, Matt, of the workout room, which was essentially 3 or 4 treadmills and a rack of weights that topped at 55 pounds. Or at 50 pounds. That was it. It had every 5 pounds, from 5 pounds to 50 pounds. That's all that was in there. And so I put together and the room was 74 degrees. I don't know why.
Ooh.
I put together a fantastic shoulder and bicep workout, and then a fantastic tricep workout the next day, and a forearm workout the next day. And on both sets, on both cases, in that crappy little workout room in this Holiday Inn Express, I did a 12.5-minute mile for 4 miles, watching a movie 2 nights in a row, which was, again, the difference between doing them. Usually I do them on the ground, out in the real world. So the treadmill, obviously I could do it a little bit quicker. I think that speaks to the difference between the treadmill and doing it, on the open road. The open road is much more difficult. But the first night, I had traveled all day to get up there, and then I went and did it. And dudes, it got tough at the end. It got rough, and I really had to push myself. Then I was dying afterwards. The second night, I stopped after the first 2 minutes, or after the first 2 miles, and I ate a banana and I drank a protein shake. And my second 2 miles was at 12 minutes, 10 seconds. And I felt 1,000 times better. So this idea, I think the races that y'all go to, I think that's probably where I heard that the first time, Steve, is, dudes doing those half marathons, and they're eating bananas. Remember, somebody told us that, eat bananas halfway through, have somebody out there holding it for you.
Mm-hmm.
And there is definitely something to that. I'm not going to do that regularly because I don't want to, it will interrupt the fat eating process by using the glucose from the banana to sidetrack that, from what I understand. So I want to do it post finishing the miles. That means eat before I go into it. But in this case, I was traveling. But it was just an interesting observation of how much better I felt having eaten that banana and drinking that protein shake halfway through the 4 miles.
Yeah, because it does create those, the body can utilize that glucose really quickly, compared to ketones.
Yeah.
But it does interrupt, because then what it does, it shuts down that ketosis, burning fat for fuel. But if you're doing an event like that, and you need that long-term endurance for that event, you weren't on your big overall mission of just reducing body fat on the body.
Right.
Then, you can definitely see how it keeps you energized. Yeah, we went to that thing when we did that mile, 26 miles marathon.
Yeah.
And I remember that first half marathon we did in Clearwater. That was sad.
Yeah.
That was sad. That was Matt
banana.
leaving. That's Matt leaving the sauna for about a half hour. Matt,
it was 4
left.
miles, dude.
Yeah, it was. Matt, you left and you were out, I don't know, 5 seconds to walk out. I was doing the same thing you're doing for over half an hour for 4 miles, just dying.
Matt, I have video.
But I think that's what made the difference.
We got to get that video.
Oh, dude,
I have video of
sad.
Steve-O and me going, "You all right, man?" And he's like, just head down. Yeah.
I didn't train for it or anything. I mean, not much. I mean, not really.
Showed.
Okay, let's just say it. I didn't train for it. I did a few things, but it wasn't proper training. And we didn't train a whole lot more for the marathon, but the way it was set up on that 1 mile track around there, it was outdoors in the grass. There was elevation. You could always actually downhill got to be worse than a little bit of an uphill, because you're hitting your brakes going downhill when you're really wiped out. That was actually harder, because at first Jake and I were finishing up together, and I was like, well, what we'll do is we'll run the downhill on the flat, and then there was elevation at the other end of the oval. It's kind of like a horse track, but it was all out. It was all grass and nice change under your feet. It wasn't a made out track, but it got to where that was hard. Running downhill was hard because you have to use so much energy just to catch your legs, and they're already gassed. But halfway through, or at least one part of the mile, you had a station for carbohydrates. They even had everybody that wanted to sponsor something had something out there. It looked like the health food section of a convenience store. So you had all those things. And I think that's the thing that made the difference there compared to when I did the half marathon, to your point of being able to keep the muscles somewhat fed, energized through having that glucose that you were burning off by the time you got back around the next time, because it'd just be a little bit, but it does make a difference.
If I did it again, a half marathon, though, I've come up with this kind of observation that I think is true for me. And that is that if I did that 13 mile again, I would not want to supplement with anything, because I want to just go do it. And it stems from, I go to the gym, and I love seeing new people come to the gym, but even experienced people, but in particular new people. And so you'll see somebody that's overweight at the gym. Good for them, they're there. but they're and many times they're being trained and they're carrying a big jug of water. Now, if you're there for training, period, and this goes for I think everybody. So I'm not talking to professional bodybuilders. I'm not talking to you dudes that spend 2 hours lifting weights every day. I'm talking to guys just like me, which are the majority of everybody. And we're in there and you're getting 45 minutes, let's say an hour, to do your lifts in. I don't carry a water. I don't have time for a water. I don't have time. My brain says no. My brain says we are there for a reason. I put my phone on the ground. There is a clock ticking on it. I don't look at my social media. I don't make phone calls. I don't do any of those things. And I watch these people, and particularly these newbies, and they're attached to that water like a baby is to mommy's teat. Just any chance they get, they just have to have it. And to me, that makes no sense because I want all my energy going into that workout. Now, that's me saying I got it right here next to me, drink your gallon of water every day. I just think that it does not make sense. I have never drank water when I worked out. I've never carried a water with me during a workout for the most part. And I have AFib and I've got more issues than most people do. And so I think mentally one of the tricks for me is that I just go do it. And if I got to stop and drink and do all of those things just for my brain, that's not going to work. Now, this brain of mine has taken me a long way, and this mentality has got me a lot of places. And I see these people attached to their water as they need to work out and get their time in the gym. And I just think, you know what? Just leave the water alone. You're thinking about that drink you're going to take. You're 300 pounds. You went through the effort of coming in the gym. You put the time in. You're embarrassed to be there. You got the clothes on. You got a trainer. You've done everything right. Put the freaking water down and go to work. And that's the way I approach those things. So if I did another half marathon, I think I'd do it the same way we did it before, Steve. It's just raw dog that bitch and just get it done.
Yeah, when I got it done, because I would do such a poor job at training for those things. So that's what helped me. But I would rather be trained, ability to do it, just have some water along the way. But yeah, without all the nutrient supplements, I'm not trying to break a PR of any kind. I just want to finish. I want to say I did it.
If people want to take that, I'm not saying that there's probably some benefit to doing that. I'm just saying being addicted to anything or telling yourself that you need those two, that's a crutch to me. It seems like a crutch. So if you need it, great. If you're trying for a PR, if you're trying to make the Boston Marathon, that's a whole different, complete program. You and me were trying to survive, as were hundreds of other people out there. And I'm just saying mentally, from an attack perspective, I do all of those miles, 4 miles every day. I'll do it all summer long. Everybody will watch me. It's going to be 100 degrees here in Tennessee. Anybody who's been to Middle Tennessee in July knows exactly what I'm talking about. And I go at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Why do I go do my miles at 4 or 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon? Because it's hot. That's when no one else is out there. I want to be out there when it's hot and when the work has to be put in. So that's just my mindset. I don't care whether or not y'all do my mindset to anybody listening. I'm just telling you that I've had an awful lot of success with this mindset, and I think those things are a distraction.
Hey, put that disclaimer in there about when you go out in the middle of the day in that sunshine that you do put your sunscreen on.
Yeah, and wear my sunglasses and have my hat. Yeah.
Sure. And by the way,
sunglasses, get that sun in through your eyes. Just breathe in that radiation. I swear, one of these times y'all are going to see me going down the road like this, and I'm just going to be running like this with my hands out, with triceps bigger than Matt's arms. Sorry,
and I
Matt.
do want to clarify, I wasn't using it as a crutch. It was a wheelchair. And it wasn't even a wheelchair. It was one of those Walmart electric motorized ones. I was in such bad shape.
You were dying. Maddie, what are you
just
laughing
listen?
at?
Well, first off, I'm triggered now by that comment. Secondly, I would say that the risk and reward mechanism is how I approach it. Of, like you said, Jerry, not being able to have the water immediately. I see water as a reward. And you don't just get a reward for showing up. We're not about participation awards. Like you just walked in the door. It doesn't mean you're going to get jack squat. But if you put in the work, then the water break at the end is a reward. It was the same in sports. Like throughout all of high school and even in college, it was almost a given. No one walked up to a football practice or a basketball practice with a bottle of water. There was water fountains. And you didn't go to the water fountain until the coach looked at you guys and said, okay, grab some water. After you're huffing and puffing, you're dragging across the floor. I remember in basketball, it was the suicides. We'd run suicides up and down the court, and you would do the free throw line, the volleyball line, the half court, volleyball line, free throw, and then the baseline. And that was one complete suicide. And we would run suicides at the end of practice. And this is when you've already been running, you've already been training, you've already been shooting and moving the whole practice hour long. And we would do those suicides, and you get to the point where our coach actually had a trash can next to the baseline at the start of the suicides. And there were multiple times I went over that trash can and dry heaved on a Saturday morning when I was out drinking a bunch of Mountain Dew the night before, hanging out with friends, eating a lot of pizza, and then going in there that next day. But that doesn't mean that I went and got water unless the coach said, hey, you can go get water. If you went and got water by yourself, you were running suicides in the middle of practice. He would make you do it, just up downs. And he'd be like, yeah, do it. So that's how I don't see why that kind of thought process wouldn't transition over to adulthood and going into the gym. Like you don't get a reward just because you show up. You got to put in an extensive amount of work to the point where you're like, all right, I'm about to pass out. I remember, Jerry, when I was in the sauna with you, there was at that point that I started getting lightheaded. Now, should I have asked you a question and said, hey, how much time do we have? Yes. Do I regret that now? Yes, because now I'm going to get made fun of the rest of my life for that. But on another side, it was going in and grabbing a drink of water after we did a full workout and the sauna. Then I was like, I went over to the water fountain, found a water fountain, got some water, and I was like, that feels good. But it was in my head, I knew that I've already accomplished something, that this right here is my minuscule reward just for this moment to keep me going harder the next time around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the statute of limitations, I think, is 2 years on anything related to a Johnny, or redemption. That's a get out of jail. But redemption is probably, no, it is. The redemption is worse than if you'd have just done the thing that you kind of bitched out on to start with. So you're going to pay the price for it. You said that about water, Matt. When I played high school football, I was in Mississippi, right around 80 to 83, 80 to 83. Yeah. And I remember seeing when y'all were out at Saudi Daisy, where you went to high school, and they had these PVC, it looked like a sawhorse thing. They had all this stuff, and they had a water inlet into it, and they had holes drilled. And so water would squirt, and guys could go over there and get water. Kid you not, they had had a whole water station. When I was in high school in Mississippi, and it wasn't a little small boat at school, there was literally at the edge of the field a water hose, and they'd turn it on when you go get water. So it's one at a time, get it if you needed to get it. One thing I noticed is that some people sweat differently. I think I could do it without, like when I'm running, I get water. It's not because I'm thirsty. It's just my mouth might get dry. And that's about the only thing, because I never really drink all of it. Because one thing I've noticed, Jake and I were talking about it, is that even when we're having a hard workout, I just don't sweat a lot. It takes a lot to make me sweat in there, unless it's like in a sauna where it's high heat. But historically, I've had all the wet armpits unless it's super hot. But if I'm sweating, then other people are sweating, not even to the degree of sometimes you see guys playing pool, they're sweating just standing there making a pool shot. But that's a different situation because they've got about, another human being wrapped around them. I'd be hot too. But it's something that you say that because I remember what it was. And the water hose ran from the field house. So that first drink of water was just scalding hot July, August temperature water coming through that hose. And we lived. No birth defects, no brain damage. And you could taste the rubber. There was no mistaking that taste of water that came out of there. So when you got in high school, I don't know, what was that, 25 years later, 30? Oh, that's longer because I was 25 when you were born. So say 30, 35 years. I was amazed to see these full-blown built PVC water stations where like 15 guys could get water at one time. It's different.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you see more young people for various reasons, which could take us into a whole nother podcast, having heart attacks, dying than I remember when I was younger. And we didn't have, quote, all the safety things in place.
Yeah, because life is supposed to be difficult, and we've just made it too easy. And to Matt's point, Matt, you wish you would have stayed in the sauna for a few more minutes. You just would have in your own head. Forget about the trouble, that we're going to give you trouble forever. That in your own head, I done the same thing. I did it just the other day. 25 minutes is my number. If I can go 30, I made it 26 and a half. And I'm sitting here telling you guys right now, last night, the last 3.5 minutes would be over. I would have survived. I thought I was going to die. I preach this all of the time, and I left because I had done 25 minutes, which is what I set out to do. But that's not enough. I would have made it. But Jerry, you're listening to your brain and all those other sorry, sad excuses that most everyone else makes. I love how people who have never done anything are so quick to critique everyone who has. Doesn't make any sense. Jerry, you got to watch out for your health. You got your heart, you got your issues, and you need to eat like this and you need to eat like that. I'm like, really? Who's healthier, you or me? I go on these AFib websites. I don't know why I do it. My wife bitches at me incessantly. I go on these
support groups,
Facebook group pages. They don't let me post, right? Because everyone in there is bitching and whining and moaning and crying about, I can't lift up a salad fork to eat my salad because it'll put me into AFib, right? And I'm talking, these people have never seen the inside of a hospital with AFib. But then I come in and go, hey, guys, here's a way around AFib. Well, what do you know? Okay, the average AFib patient is admitted to a hospital twice. I've been admitted to a hospital 61 times for AFib. 61 times. The average AFib patient has never been cardioverted. I've been cardioverted dozens of times, twice in one night, twice. Okay, I know I did everything that I did. Everything that you see in front of you, everything that I talk about comes from brutal heart issues at a level no one understands, can even comprehend. And I fixed it, and here's how I did it. But when I go to tell people how I did it, all I get back is, no. This is the moderators on these sites won't let me write what I did because they deem it, what's the term, where they think I'm talking down to everybody. Now, I'm not up there going, you all a bunch of pussies. I'm not doing that, but I'm saying, hey, here's the reality. Y'all got to get out of your bubble. You got to see that there's another way to do it. I was stuck in the bubble you're in for years and years. Here's how I did it. And whatever you think your problem is, mine was 1,000 times worse. Yeah, okay, self-aggrandizing, whatever. Mine was 1,000 times worse. The doctors tell me, no one ever does what you do. If you did, I would have less patients. And yet, it just continues on. And they go, oh, well, your story's not my story. Or this one, Matt, everybody, that diet works for you, but it doesn't work for me. Or I can't eat meat every day. Well, okay, how about you just don't eat? You're 330 pounds. You could not eat for 2 months and you would be fine, right? But you're sitting here talking about I can't eat meat every day. So I love how people always push back on my opinions. It's like, that dude's crazy. That's not for everybody. It's like, okay, so continue right up until they saw your freaking legs off because you never did anything about it, and then you're burdened to your children. Well done. Don't listen to the crazy guy on the internet. That makes all sense. The guy that does all of these things at my age that are unimaginable with my health. It just doesn't make any sense. So to your point, Maddie, go back in the sauna and do your 25 minutes. I need to go back and get, I can't go till tomorrow. I'm doing 30 minutes. If I die, I love you guys. If I've enjoyed the podcast, because I promise you I'm dying at 30 minutes in the sauna tomorrow after this conversation. And I will do another 13-minute mile for 4 miles.
Yeah, Jerry, this is, I actually threw up a post about this, I think this morning on TikTok, but the mindset into the self-doubt of, I don't think I can do this. And it's all in your own head. And to your point about talking to others and showing them a way, they have to want to have a way. Right now, they're on those pages, and people can hate me for this, but they like that. They like that pity. They like that wallowing. They don't want to be different because right now they're accepted in a group, in a room that allows pity and wallowing and like, oh, we're going to be okay. We're going to figure this out together. When someone comes in with something so radical that they wish they thought of, they don't want to just adhere to it because it's not something they thought of, even though it probably was something they thought of, but they weren't going to do the work to actually get the job done. or to do anything about it. And so there's so many, and like you said, on Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, anywhere where people are accepted by a certain way, but they've never heard or realized the evolution of humanity. And if you are one of those people that are in certain groups or in certain rooms that are just constantly feeding off of each other, it's a bunch of women talking to each other, talking and gossiping and being like, oh, well, we're going to figure this out. It almost feels like if you've seen Mormon Wives, it's like that show. It's like literally all behind their back trying to get at each other, but they're going to present their best self and that they're doing well, or even if it's just a micro win, they'll make that micro win like a participation award and everyone should congratulate them for it. I'm not saying that it's wrong to have that, but if you want to make a move in life, if you want to be radical with what you see, whether it be in your business, whether it be in entrepreneurship, whether it be in your health, people don't want to idolize someone who is just like them, but they're not able to do what you've done. So they push you out because they're like, wait, he's just like us and he's telling us something, but it goes against what we've talked about in this little room and helping each other along the way. And so they automatically, it's almost like a human nature thing that we just want to reject something that we know is probably a good thing, but it's not based off of us getting that overall glory or acceptance or pride to say we did it ourselves, someone else did it and I copied them. There's no problem with copying because we've done that throughout all of life when it's like, hey, someone's done something, learn from that. Like, don't just say, oh, I'm going to figure it out my way. We already have a wheel. Don't reinvent the wheel. Like, it still runs. It still does exactly what the job does. We don't need a different wheel. So just like it is in health, there's only so many things. Yeah, they can come up with new workouts. They can do all kinds of new programs and benefits and products and all that stuff. But the tried and true will still get it done. Are you willing to actually do that?
Right.
Yeah, there's only one first.
What's that, Steve?
There's only one first. Everything else is somebody doing it. And a lot of times the first one to do it is just permission, like the 4-minute mile for everybody else all of a sudden realize I could do it. Oh, I could do it. Oh, it can be done. I can do it. There's a lot of benefit to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with all of that. And I'll add, I'll just think about this for a minute. The reality is that if you want to level up in life, people have to find people and get them around them that they want to be like. So the world is going to do nothing but hold you back. And the world is everybody around you. And the people are around you in physical form, or like I talked about on these Facebook groups and these for AFib or for hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, the block that I have, it is full of victims. If we looked it up right now and we went through it, you will see story after story after story of people talking about don't do all of the things that I did to change what is the worst case of this thing that they're all afflicted with. But if they can't ever hear my story because they're stuck in their echo chamber, listening to what all of the people around them in their bubble are saying, people who don't want to put in the effort or the energy or the time, they don't want to sacrifice to get the benefits from what that hard work would be. They want to keep feeling sorry for themselves. They want to keep getting all of the attention and the sympathy from others rather than standing up for themselves, going out on their own and actually changing it. They love the water cooler talk because it is something that they can expand on. It's something they can give their opinions about. It's something that they're suffering from. And it is also a reason why we can continue with the status quo and never try to reach beyond ourselves. We don't want to ever try to go anywhere else. Poor people know this very well. When you're surrounded in poverty, everyone is poor and nobody thinks they can go anywhere. And then somebody does, and all we do is talk shit about that person because he made it out. Well, he made it out because of X, Y, and Z. It can't be because he actually put his head down and he went to work. This is a loser mentality that is rampant throughout all of society. So if somebody actually puts their head above the parapet and says, I'm going to do something different, and here's how I did it, here's the groundwork, what do we do, here is exactly what you need to follow, the breadcrumbs for you laid out, here's what you need to do. So often we go, no, that guy's got this, that, or oh, he's lucky because he's rich, or he's lucky because he's 6 foot tall, or he's lucky because he's, there's always something. And ultimately then you never go anywhere. I know a lot of unhappy, miserably obese people who have issues mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, who have had those issues since they were in high school, and they are now coming up on their 60s, and they are still fat, and they are still obese, and they never reached out beyond themselves. They never gave somebody else enough trust. They never tried to have a difficult conversation related to their own shortcomings to improve themselves. And so the reality is you need to find people who will challenge you. Now, it can be easy to do at times to find those people if you get into a group like we got, like what we're talking about with the Kronos Group school community. But in your own lives, you got to reach out and you got to find them. But those people are hard to find on your own. There's a chance, a good chance, that those people just aren't available to you. But you got to understand, this is anybody listening to this, that your programming today in society today is to not put your head up. It's to not go and try and achieve. It's to stay with all the other sheep and all the other ducks and just swim together so that you don't stand out and you don't be different and you don't. And when you get injured or you're hurt or you have a disease or a problem like I do, it just doubles down. So your programming just programs on top of itself, and it just continues and it continues and it continues. And sooner or later, you've got to break that. So when somebody like me comes along and says, look, I got all of these issues. I got the background. I got the terrible childhood. I got all the health issues, a broken back. I got every problem you can imagine. And yet I changed it all. And here's how I did it. In the face of every piece of advice I was ever given, you have the same problem, not nearly to the extent I do. And yet everyone goes, that dude's crazy. Well, you know what? I'm going to go keep being crazy. I'm going to keep doing my miles. I'm going to keep lifting weights. I'm going to keep fixing my mental health, and I'm going to keep fixing my physical health. I'm going to keep fixing my mentally, spiritually, emotional health. All of that's going to continue to get better and better while you rot the way you have for 30, 40 years, the way I've seen so many people do it. As I come up on 60 years of age at 57, it'll never change. You'll never get better. And this is important, and then I'll shut up. You will continue to be right in your own head.
Yeah. That's what a lot of it's the victim mentality. And you're exactly right. Because and people have to admit they've seen it when they've tried anything, when they've tried to better themselves, elevate themselves with a group of people you have, whatever it may be, your social circle, whatever it may be, they're threatened. Because you represent something that they could do, and they don't want to have to face that. So it's easier to pull you down than to look at themselves in the mirror and go, well, if he did it, I could do it. And they don't want to do it because it's a lot easier to stay down. Well, you don't understand my story. You don't understand my situation. So anything like that, it's very threatening to people like that if they have that closed mind to it. And like you were saying, you've got to get yourself in those circles of people. You're going to have to get rid of a lot of the people you have. Doesn't mean they're not your family or they're not your friends anymore, but the influence they have on your life, you've got to break that influence they have. Or otherwise you're just going to sit there with them. If you've had any inkling of anything that, I've seen other people and there's something in me says, I think I could do that too. It's very important to get around those people doing the same kind of things on the same kind of journey, if you want to call it that, where they're bettering themselves, get in line with them, get the support from them, get the help from them. Because there's going to be times life just kicks you in the nuts. And it's just nice when you have somebody, I don't have enough fingers how many times that's happened to me. What'd you do? Just do this, this, and this. Because the existing friend group or the social group a lot of people don't have anybody in there. They want you to come over here and put a hand on, well, come over and shed some tears with me and let's swap sob stories. Because that's what they're comfortable with. And
it feels good.
Yeah. And but it appeals to who they are at that moment. Like to me, it's not that it's repulsive, but I see there's no value in it. It does nothing to the way I'm wired now. Now, I haven't always been that way, but I can see that and I can think back where I looked for my pity party groups and they were easy to find to find your pity party groups. The commiserators, super easy to find. We're trained almost to be commiserators, but to step out.
I find it repulsive. I find it repulsive. I think repulsive is the perfect word. I find it repulsive. I find it life-altering, life-crushing, soul-crushing, repulsive. That's the perfect word.
Because you don't even want to be around those people, to our point of decisions we're making right now, because we realize that does that to us, and it's just, they're not for us and we're not for them. Because if we really started having honest conversations, we'd probably be asked to leave at some point anyway. If you just start having real conversations about real thing. And I don't like being in the situations where I found myself, kind of couching my stories a little bit or just not having them. Right. Because I know how it's going to be received. And then you're like, okay, then what am I doing here? What's this doing? We only have so many ticks on the clock in this thing called life. Is this the way I want to spend it? And is it helping me? Because at the end, am I going to be able to look back and be glad of everything I became? Because everybody at this moment where you sit right now is the sum total of all decisions you've made up till today, right now. And the story that you could write for yourself depends on the people you put yourself around. You always hear the 5 people you're surrounded. That's absolutely true. Show me the people who they're surrounded with, and I can tell you right now what that trajectory of your life looks like.
I was going to say, Jerry, kind of going, I know we're wrapping up soon, but what I want to do is challenge our audience right now with just going into the rest of this week and into next week, the 3 people that are surrounded with you on a daily basis. It could be at your work, it could be your parents, it could be a family member, it could be just a good friend. And are those people speaking life into you and pushing you and making you a better person? Because if they are not, then that is how easily it can become as you are becoming part of the rest of the sheep. And it doesn't have to be it's not a one moment that you are like, wow, I'm stuck and I need to fix it. You can have a light bulb moment, but the discipline and the consistency to go away from those conversations, to not hang out with those people, even if they are good friends of you, or they could even be a parent for someone that's younger, that's in college, and their parent is just someone who has been in that kind of mindset, that crippling mindset of woe is me, and that's all they've ever heard. I encourage our listeners to step out of that. And that's why part of the Kronos Forge, the school community, was built, because that's all you're going to hear from us is how do we make ourselves better each and every day, each and every week. And it's not going to be a one-time switch, because not everyone's wired like you, Jerry, because you are able to just say, hey, I'm going to cut this out and I'm going to do this. Some people don't have that ability yet. I can say they can develop it, but you have to consistently remind yourself in those conversations that could be just about everyday things. And if you're not growing or learning or excelling or building in your career or in your health or in your just overall life, then those conversations you got to step away from. And it's going to be hard, because who wants to be that person that's in a conversation with a bunch of friends at a bar and they start going on, and for the next 40 minutes and you're like, all right, I'm done, I got to head out. Well, why do you got to head out, man? Well, I don't need to be here. I'm wasting my time. And it's not easy to say that, but the truth is just that. It's the reality. So you have to make a conscious effort every time this happens in order to build that muscle to where it becomes something that you almost have a spidey sense about it, based off of the first 5 words that come out of someone, that you almost have that ability to be like, yep, not worth my time. Or you can kind of convince them, see if something changes. If it doesn't, so long.
And I'll say this lastly, Matt and Steve, the value that comes from being different than everybody else is so significant in your head. The mindset that it puts you into is so significant. I'll give you an example. It's 10 o'clock at night. I'm working out in the gym, this little gym at the hotel. The hotel's packed. 3 dudes came in, 3 different dudes. In the time I was there, some of them lifted weights a little bit. Some of them got on the treadmill and put in a little bit of time, but I'm paying attention. And so 3 guys, and combined, these 3 guys, all of them half my age, combined didn't do half of the work that I did. I was in there for an hour and 25 minutes, give or take, between the weightlifting and the 50 odd minutes it took me to do 4 miles both nights. And dudes are coming and going. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm the man. Look at these guys. You know, again, in my perspective is as a 57-year-old, but I'm looking at that going, I mean, these dudes can't keep up with me. They didn't look like me. They don't sound like me. They don't run like me. They don't lift like me, right? They don't walk like I did, right? They were shy and bashful and came in. Good on them for being in there trying to do something. But again, the world for me is always a competition. I'm always looking at the people around me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm crushing it as they get up and jog a little bit. I'm proud of that. I'm not running from that. I'm judgmental of them because they're not willing to do the amount of work that I am on a given night, a given week, a given month, or a given year. No one is going to work harder than I am. Plain and simple. Doesn't mean I succeed, but no one's going to work harder. So when they walk in, I'm like, yep, okay, nope. Oh, nope, that's not a competition. Nope, there's no competition there. Nope, there's no competition there. And again, that competition is going to be physical. It's going to be mental, right? I'm sharper, I'm faster, I'm quicker, all of those things combined. And so there is a value in being healthy and making habits out of the disciplines, making a lifestyle out of the disciplines that then you get to take and start judging everybody else. It's magical. And if we hide from that or we lie about that, we're all doing exactly that. We're hiding from that. I know immediately when I meet somebody that's got, marshmallows in his beard and he's 300 pounds and he's my age, I know exactly what that effort is versus the effort I'm putting in. I know exactly what kind of attitude I'm going to get out of that person versus the attitude that you're going to get out of me. I know the personality type. I know what kind of information. I know what his opinions are going to be, every part of it. And I operate up here and they operate down here. And all those old guys in the sauna that I talk about, I have nothing in common with any of them talking to the younger guys about, well, the only thing you want to do is not get old. This is what these a-holes talk about. You're just not get old. I'm like, wait. Young buck, here's what I did today. Do you do that? No, because I know from the studies that rarely do people put in the kind of work that I do. Right? So I get to operate up here because am I better than everybody else? I don't know. I'm certainly willing to put in a whole lot more work. How valuable is that tool? How valuable is it when I'm negotiating with somebody across a desk? How valuable is it when I'm having a conversation with somebody across the sauna? These are what the essence of being a man is in that competitive environment where you go, yes, I'm doing more than somebody else is. Doesn't mean you can't be successful by not doing in more, but I'm telling you, it's a huge advantage when you look at somebody and go, dude, you're dying. I can see the diabetes crawling up your leg right now, and you do nothing about it. There's nothing you can offer me. There's nothing you can give me, right? Because you and I are not the same. And unfortunately, more people have diabetes crawling up their leg than don't in the world today, particularly that are our age. And so I'll just say this to end it, Matt. It's a freaking superpower. And I want this superpower. This is why the school community for the Kronos Forge, I want this superpower for everyone. I don't want to sit here and just talk about myself because it makes me feel good. I want to sit here and talk about myself and the things that I've done and the things that I've come through so that, to your point, Matt, the people who don't have it in them, the people who believe they don't have it in them, hear what's possible. And if they can jump onto us here at the Kronos Forge and follow it, right? And give them that inspiration and that motivation and just show them what reality is and that something can be done differently than what they do. Forget about how bad their situation is. Well, that's what we're here for. And that's the reality. And that is more people than not. So if you think you can do it by yourself, you're probably wrong. My question to you is, have you? We know the answer is no. So then come on. It's cheap. I say it every week. It's cheap. $49 to get into the Kronos Forge, and you too can have access to this conversation that we're having today. So there's the value. That's the crazy thing about it. But it's only for people who want to level up. If you don't want to level up, if you're happy where you are, if you've been fat for 40 years and you're just going to die fat and be a huge burden to your children, if you even have them and if they have anything to do with you, then good for you. That's on you. We're not your place. But if you're that person, you're like, no, Jerry, I want out after 40 years. I want out after 20 years. I'm 22 years old and I want in and I've been fat as long as I can remember. I want to succeed and I want to level up and I want to start a business and I want to be an entrepreneur. Show me how to do it. Boom. $49. Come on. Kronos School. Why can't I remember the school page? The Kronos Forge on school, SKOOL. Matt, why won't more people do it? Let's go.
I look at this and I'm glad you said all that, Jerry, and I'll probably wrap up the podcast on that note because I like the strong finish. But there's so many people that I know that would be able to benefit from something like this that, like you said, are either adhering to the advice or they just don't want to do it. And if you don't want to do it, great. That's not going to be part of our group. That's not part of what we're trying to do. And there's so many young guys that are trying to figure out a way. They hear all of this stuff. They hear you need to come together and figure out like what needs to be done. But you can't go to your 22-year-old friend if you're 22 and ask for life advice. It ain't going to work. And the more that I see that, even for me being 33, if I go to another 33-year-old and expect them to have their stuff together, I'm the idiot, not them, because they're just doing what they're doing. I'm the one who's crippling myself by going to someone like that. So to your point, Jerry, getting in a room with people that are going to push you and know so much more than you do, or in a certain career path or a place that you want to be in entrepreneurship that has been there and done that, that is vital. And it is something that most guys it's so hard to go inside their own head and say, shut up and listen, because they're like you said, 22 years old, I got the world figured out. I know how to do this. You can't tell me how to do this. And they're not even making money like you were, Jerry. Like right. They're at the same bar as a bartender next to their buddy who's a bartender. And they're like, hey, we got to make this game plan. Okay, cool. I'm glad you had an initiative, but how is that going to work out? Because that person that you're asking hasn't done what you want either.
Yeah, it's so hard to do, though, to get out of your own way. But you're right, Maddie. It's just hard to get out of your own way. So hopefully we can help some people. You guys got me all excited. I filled this up before we started. It's got ice in it. It's now empty. So let's call it 40-some ounces of water during this conversation. I mean, Jerry, how do you drink a gallon a day?
You just found out in a podcast.
Just like
Boys,
that.
It's always a good time.
All right. Tune in next week for another episode of the Kronos Group podcast. And Steve, we will have to have him close us out.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. Steve, are you in a cave?
No, I know the
really
sun
dark.
went down. The sun went down. Let's see if I can help that.
All of a sudden, it's like the sun's setting on Steve's program.
Yeah, it went behind the trees. I was noticing that there. I didn't even want to get it out of there, so I got to do something. I'll get that. I'll get that resolved. Darker. Yeah, because the sun's going down behind.
Come to the light, Steve. Come to the light.
Yeah, get out of the back of the cave, Steve. Get out of the back of the cave.
So I pulled that down over that to shed some light on it. But we do appreciate you joining us here today at the Kronos Group. Find out more information about who we are and what we do. Go visit the kronosgroup.org. If you're an entrepreneur doing $1 to $25 million, you're tired of doing it alone. Something here has resonated with you. Said, I need people like this around me. I don't have that around me to help me make decisions. Give us a call. Set up a time. Get a link. Set up a time for a free phone call. We'd love to talk to you. See if there's something we could do to help you out. And remember, opportunities everywhere. You got to go get them.